There's something hauntingly beautiful about the way ancient civilizations looked to the stars not just as distant lights, but as guides, teachers, even divine messengers. Picture this: 1,000 years before telescopes or satellites, cultures like the Maya and the Egyptians mapped the heavens with astonishing precision, aligning their temples to celestial events and weaving cosmic truths into the very fabric of their daily lives. How did they achieve such feats? What did they know about the universe that we're only beginning to grasp today? These questions aren't just about history, they're about us. They hint at a forgotten connection between humanity and the cosmos, one that might still hold profound lessons for our modern world. Think about the Great Pyramid of Giza, its sides perfectly aligned to the cardinal directions, or the Mayan calendar, which tracked time with an accuracy that rivals our own atomic clocks. These weren't just architectural marvels or mathematical quirks, they were expressions of a deeper wisdom, a philosophy that saw the universe as an interconnected whole. The ancients didn't separate science from spirituality. To them, the movements of the planets and the cycles of the seasons were sacred, part of a grand design they sought to understand and emulate. And yet, so much of their knowledge has been lost to time, buried beneath layers of myth and misinterpretation. What if we've been overlooking clues hidden in plain sight? That's the journey we're about to take together, a voyage into the heart of ancient cosmic wisdom, where the lines between astronomy, mythology, and philosophy blur into something extraordinary. We'll unravel the secrets of sacred geometry, decode the celestial language of temples and monuments, and explore how these lost cultures might have glimpsed truths about reality that modern science is only now beginning to confirm. This isn't just a history lesson, it's an invitation to see the world and our place in it through the eyes of those who came before us. By the end, you might find yourself looking up at the night sky with a whole new sense of wonder, wondering what else we've yet to rediscover. So, are you ready to step into the mystery? The moment you step inside the Great Pyramid or trace your fingers along the intricate carvings of a Mayan temple, something extraordinary becomes clear. These weren't just buildings. They were living textbooks, etched with a language of shapes and ratios that whispered the universe's deepest secrets. Take the golden ratio, a mathematical harmony found in everything from seashells to spiral galaxies. The ancients didn't just stumble upon it, they revered it as divine. In Egypt, the ratio dictated the proportions of the pyramids, ensuring their sides rose at an angle that mirrored the very fabric of space and time. Over in Greece, philosophers like Pythagoras called it the key to the cosmos, weaving it into their music, art, and even their temples. But here's what's truly fascinating. These cultures, separated by oceans and centuries, all arrived at the same breathtaking conclusion: the universe speaks in geometry. Now consider the flower of life, a pattern of interlocking circles that appears in sacred sites from China to Ireland. To modern eyes, it might look like an elegant design, but to the ancients, it was a blueprint. The Babylonians saw it as a map of celestial movement, while Tibetan monks used it to meditate on the interconnectedness of all things. Even Leonardo da Vinci, centuries later, filled his notebooks with sketches of this same symbol, convinced it held the secrets of mechanics and anatomy. What if these repeating patterns aren't just coincidence? What if they're echoes of a universal code, a kind of cosmic grammar that early civilizations learned to read long before we had telescopes or quantum physics? Perhaps the most compelling clue lies in the Fibonacci sequence, where each number builds upon the last in a spiral of perfect proportion. You'll find it in the curve of a nautilus shell, the branching of trees, even the arrangement of leaves on a stem. But here's the staggering part. The same sequence appears in the measurements of ancient structures like the Parthenon and the Great Pyramid. Coincidence? Unlikely. These builders didn't have calculators or satellites. They had observation, patience, and an unshakable belief that nature's patterns were a guide to something greater. Today, scientists confirm their hunches, finding Fibonacci sequences in DNA strands and distant galaxies. It's as if the ancients cracked a code we're still deciphering, one that suggests the universe isn't just random chaos, but a tapestry woven with intention. So why does this matter now? Because hidden in these geometric echoes is a radical idea. That knowledge isn't linear, and wisdom doesn't belong to any one era. The pyramids, the mandalas, the sacred circles, they're more than relics. They're invitations to look deeper, to question whether our modern world, you might be missing a piece of the puzzle. After all, if cultures across millennia kept pointing to the same shapes, the same ratios, doesn't that hint at something timeless, something true? The next time you gaze at a starry sky or study the veins of a leaf, remember, you might just be glimpsing the same cosmic blueprint that once guided the hands of history's greatest builders. Among the rolling hills of Mali, the Dogon people have preserved a celestial secret so precise, it defies conventional history. For generations, their oral traditions spoke of Sirius B, a dense, invisible companion star orbiting Sirius, the brightest star in our night sky. What makes this knowledge extraordinary? Sirius B is a white dwarf, a collapsed star so faint it wasn't observed through telescopes until the 19th century. Yet the Dogon described its elliptical orbit, its 50-year cycle, even its astonishing density, all without lenses or modern instruments. How could a remote tribe, untouched by Western astronomy, hold such detailed understanding of a star hidden from human eyes? Their answer lies in legend. The Dogon speak of the Nommo, enigmatic beings who arrived from the cosmos in a vessel that spiraled down like a whirlwind. These amphibious teachers, they say, brought wisdom about the stars, agriculture, and the very structure of the universe. The Nommo's descriptions of Sirius B match modern astrophysics with eerie precision. A small but incredibly heavy star, the smallest and heaviest thing, as Dogon elders put it. To scientists, this accuracy is baffling. Could it be coincidence, or is it evidence of a forgotten exchange, one that bridges ancient myth and cutting-edge discovery? Consider the implications. If the Dogon's knowledge didn't come from telescopes, where did it originate? Some suggest contact with an advanced civilization, whether terrestrial or extraterrestrial. Others propose that the Dogon inherited fragments of a far older, global wisdom tradition, one that mapped the heavens through means we've yet to comprehend. What's undeniable is that their stories force us to rethink the boundaries of human achievement. While mainstream history credits Galileo and Newton with unlocking the cosmos, the Dogon remind us that truth often lingers in the margins, carried by voices we've overlooked. Perhaps the most humbling lesson here isn't about stars at all, but about humility itself. In an age where we assume knowledge flows linearly from primitive to advanced, the Dogon stand as a quiet counterpoint. Their understanding of Sirius B whispers a provocative question: what if progress isn't always forward? What if some truths were known, then lost, waiting to be rediscovered? As we peer deeper into space with our satellites and probes, it's worth remembering that the night sky has been a classroom for millennia, its lessons etched not just in light, but in the stories of those who dared to listen. Imagine soaring through the skies not in a steel aircraft, but in a gleaming vessel described in texts older than 2,000 years. The ancient Sanskrit epics of India speak of Vimanas, sophisticated flying machines that could ascend vertically, hover like modern helicopters, and even travel between planets. The Mahabharata recounts warriors piloting these craft into battle, armed with weapons that sound unnervingly like directed energy beams. One passage describes a Vimana as self-moving, adorned with pearls, shining like fire, capable of vanishing at will. These aren't vague legends, they're meticulous accounts that read like early engineering manuals. How could a civilization without industrial technology conceive of flight in such precise terms? The descriptions go beyond poetic imagination. The Vaimanika Shastra, a later Sanskrit text attributed to the sage Maharshi Bharadwaj, breaks down Vimana mechanics with startling specificity. It mentions mercury vortex engines, energy shields, and even anti-gravity propulsion systems called alchemy. Modern aerospace engineers who have studied these texts note eerie parallels, like the mention of absorbing solar power, resembling today's solar sails, or the detailed aerodynamics that mirror contemporary wing designs. Skeptics dismiss these as lucky guesses or later additions, but the consistency across centuries of texts suggests something more profound. Could these have been attempts to document real technology, passed down through generations as myth? Consider the implications. If Vimanas were merely allegories, why include such granular details about cockpit instrumentation or wind-resistant alloys? One passage warns pilots to avoid specific atmospheric conditions that cause turbulence, knowledge that aligns with modern aviation safety protocols. Another describes a propulsion system using sound frequencies, echoing today's experiments with acoustic levitation. Even the materials mentioned, like a metal called trinitra, said to withstand extreme heat, sound suspiciously like descriptions of advanced alloys. The more you examine these accounts, the harder it becomes to wave them away as fantasy. Perhaps the most tantalizing clue lies in the broader context. Across ancient India, temples and carvings depict figures in what look like pressurized suits, alongside wheeled vehicles resembling spacecraft. The Jain text Samarangana Sutradhara dedicates entire chapters to Vimana construction, discussing everything from fuel sources to pilot training. These aren't isolated myths, they're fragments of a comprehensive aeronautical tradition. While mainstream history credits the Wright brothers with conquering the skies, these texts suggest humanity's relationship with flight might be far older and far more mysterious than we've been taught. What if the Vimanas represent not just lost technology but lost knowledge? Civilizations rise and fall, and with them, entire libraries of understanding. The Antikythera Mechanism proved ancient Greeks had complex gear systems millennia before we thought possible. The Baghdad battery hints at forgotten electrical experiments. Maybe India's flying machines belong to the same category, glimpses of a scientific lineage that didn't survive the ravages of time. The next time you board a plane, spare a thought for those ancient pilots who might have navigated the clouds long before Bernoulli's principles were ever written down. Their legacy lingers in the pages of crumbling texts, waiting for us to decipher just how much they truly knew. Deep within the labyrinth of ancient texts lies a small but mighty artifact, the Emerald Tablet, said to contain the secrets of the universe in just a few cryptic lines. Its most famous phrase, "as above, so below," isn't just poetic, it's a radical declaration that the cosmos mirrors itself at every scale. Think of it like a cosmic echo, the patterns of distant galaxies reflecting the swirl of atoms, or the human soul mirroring the dance of celestial bodies. This idea wasn't just philosophy to the alchemists, it was the foundation of their art. While popular history remembers them as eccentric figures trying to turn lead into gold, their true quest was far grander. They believed that by transforming base metals, they could also transform the self, unlocking a hidden harmony between matter and spirit. Take the alchemical symbol of the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail. At first glance, it's a simple image of cycles, but look deeper. It's a visual representation of as above, so below, showing how beginnings and endings, creation and destruction, are part of one endless loop. The alchemists saw this same pattern in the seasons, in the orbits of planets, even in the beating of a human heart. Their laboratories weren't just filled with bubbling flasks. They were sacred spaces where the mundane and the divine collided. Every experiment was a prayer, an attempt to decode the universe's hidden language. Now here's where it gets astonishing. Modern quantum physics whispers something eerily similar. The principle of entanglement suggests that particles separated by vast distances can instantaneously affect one another, as if space itself is an illusion. Sound familiar? It's the scientific cousin of as above, so below, a confirmation that the universe operates in ways the alchemists might have intuited centuries ago. Even the quest to unify physics into a single theory of everything mirrors the alchemist's dream of finding the philosopher's stone, that elusive key to unlocking all of nature's mysteries. But the Emerald Tablet's wisdom doesn't stop there. Its verses speak of the sun as its father, the moon as its mother, hinting at the interplay of opposing forces, light and dark, masculine and feminine, active and receptive. This duality wasn't about conflict, it was about balance. The Chinese called it yin and yang. The Hindus described it as Shiva and Shakti. Across cultures, this understanding of complementary opposites resurfaces, suggesting a universal truth about how reality functions. The alchemists didn't just want to mix chemicals, they sought to reconcile these dualities within themselves to achieve what they called the great work, a state of wholeness where the inner and outer worlds aligned. So what does this mean for us today? In an age where science and spirituality often feel at odds, the Emerald Tablet offers a bridge. It reminds us that the drive to understand the cosmos and the yearning to understand ourselves are two sides of the same coin. Whether through a microscope or a meditation cushion, we're all seeking the same thing, a glimpse of the hidden order behind the chaos. The next time you gaze at the stars or ponder the mysteries of your own mind, remember, the ancients might have left us a map. All we have to do is learn to read it. Buried beneath the waves for 2,000 years, the Antikythera Mechanism emerged from a shipwreck not as a corroded relic, but as a revelation. When divers first pulled it from the Mediterranean in 1901, they had no idea they'd uncovered what historians now call the world's first analog computer. This wasn't just a simple calendar or decorative artifact, it was a labyrinth of bronze gears, precisely interlocked to track the movements of the sun, moon, and planets with accuracy that would rival modern astronomical tools. The device could predict eclipses years in advance, chart the irregular orbit of the moon, even account for leap months, all through an ingenious system of dials and rotating mechanisms. What's truly staggering is the context. This technological marvel dates back to around 80 BCE, centuries before the scientific revolution. While Europe would plunge into the Dark Ages, forgetting basic mathematics, the Antikythera Mechanism's creators had already mastered gear ratios and differential gearing, concepts we wouldn't rediscover until the Industrial Revolution. The device even included a tiny rotating ball to display the phases of the moon, a feature that wouldn't reappear in clocks until the 1400s. So who were these ancient engineers? The leading theory points to the island of Rhodes, home to legendary astronomers like Hipparchus, whose star catalogues may have informed the mechanism's celestial calculations. But here's the haunting question. If they could build this, what else did they know? The mechanism's sophistication hints at a lost golden age of Greek science. Cicero wrote of a similar device crafted by Archimedes, describing a globe that mirrored the motions of the heavens. Could the Antikythera Mechanism be part of a broader tradition of complex machinery? The unsettling truth is that most bronze artifacts from this era were melted down for weapons or coins. This one survived only because it sank to the ocean floor, escaping the destruction that erased its contemporaries. Modern researchers using three-dimensional imaging have peeled back layers of corrosion to reveal inscriptions, a user manual etched in Greek. These notes don't just explain the device, they frame it as a philosophical tool, blending astronomy with astrology in typical Hellenistic fashion. The mechanism didn't just calculate planetary positions, it connected them to human events, embodying the ancient belief that the cosmos and earthly lives were woven together. Perhaps the most humbling realization is how this single artifact rewrites our assumptions about technological progress. We imagine history as a straight line from primitive to advanced, but the Antikythera Mechanism shatters that illusion. Its existence proves that brilliance isn't bound to any era, that innovation can flourish, then vanish, leaving only whispers behind. As we piece together its secrets, we're forced to wonder how many other marvels lie buried, waiting to remind us that the past might have been far more sophisticated than we dare to dream. Stretching across the arid plains of southern Peru, the Nazca Lines form one of the most baffling open-air galleries on Earth. From the ground, these enormous etchings appear as little more than shallow grooves in the rust-colored soil, but rise just a few hundred feet into the air and the desert transforms. A colossal hummingbird with wings spread wide emerges, its beak pointing precisely toward the rising sun during the winter solstice. A spiraling monkey with an intricately coiled tail stretches nearly 400 feet across the landscape. These aren't random scratches, they're masterpieces of scale and precision, some stretching longer than 3 football fields. Their proportions so exact they could only have been planned with mathematical rigor. What's even more astonishing is their endurance. Created between 500 BC and 500 CE, by removing the dark surface stones to reveal lighter sand beneath, these geoglyphs have survived for millennia without fading into the desert. The Nazca people left no written records, but their lines speak volumes, though we're still deciphering their language. One prevailing theory suggests they were celestial maps, aligning with star clusters or solstice events to guide agricultural cycles. The spider glyph, for instance, mirrors the constellation Orion, while the hummingbird's beak aligns with the sun's path at key times of the year. For a culture dependent on rain in one of the driest places on Earth, tracking the heavens wouldn't just be science, it would be survival. Yet not all explanations are so grounded. The sheer scale and aerial perspective of the lines have fueled speculation that they were meant for viewers beyond the clouds, perhaps deities or even extraterrestrial visitors. Proponents of this theory point to the famous astronaut glyph, a humanoid figure with wide eyes and what looks like a floating helmet, etched into a hillside as if watching the desert below. Skeptics counter that it's more likely a shaman in ceremonial dress, but the mystery lingers. How did the Nazca, without flight or advanced optics, design images only fully visible from the sky? Some researchers propose they used simple surveying tools and ropes to scale up small models, while others wonder if they might have harnessed hot air balloon technology lost to time. Perhaps the most haunting clue lies in the Nazca's own fate. Around 500 CE, their civilization collapsed, possibly due to climate change or deforestation. Their lines, however, endured silent witnesses to a people who sought to etch their understanding of the cosmos into the Earth itself. Today, as drones and satellite imagery reveal new glyphs buried for centuries, we're reminded that the desert still holds secrets. The Nazca Lines aren't just puzzles from the past, They are mirrors reflecting our own relentless curiosity. Every theory, from the astronomical to the otherworldly, says as much about us as it does about the hands that carved them. So the next time you gaze at an airplane contrail streaking across the sky, consider this. 2,000 years ago, beneath that same expanse, an entire civilization was leaving messages in the sand, messages we're still trying to read. Whether they were meant for the gods, the stars, or generations yet unborn, one thing is clear: the Nazca didn't just draw lines, they drew a question mark across the ages, inviting us to keep searching for answers. Plato's tale of Atlantis begins not as myth but as history, a story passed down to him by Egyptian priests who claimed this island empire thrived 9,000 years before his time. According to his dialogues Timaeus and Critias, Atlantis was a marvel of engineering, with concentric rings of land and water, towering statues, and a vast capital city pulsating with energy. Its people possessed technology and wisdom far beyond their era, harnessing cosmic forces we're only beginning to understand today. Then, in a single catastrophic day and night, the entire civilization sank beneath the ocean, erased from memory. Was this a cautionary fable about hubris, or could it have been a real place? Recent discoveries have reignited the debate. Off the coast of Spain, underwater ruins near the Dogon National Park reveal structures that eerily match Plato's descriptions: circular formations buried under sediment, with artifacts dating back to the Bronze Age. In the Bahamas, the Bimini Road's massive limestone blocks, arranged in a perfect geometric line, defy natural explanation. Even more compelling are the submerged megaliths near Japan's Yonaguni, where stepped pyramids and carved channels suggest a sophisticated city swallowed by rising seas around 2000 BC. These sites don't prove Atlantis existed, but they confirm something profound. Civilizations did vanish beneath the waves, their stories preserved only in fragments. The deeper mystery lies in what the Atlanteans might have known. Plato described them as masters of crystals that channeled light, devices eerily reminiscent of modern laser technology. They allegedly tapped into Earth's ley lines' invisible energy grids that some researchers now link to ancient sacred sites like Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid. Even their downfall carries a haunting parallel to modern warnings. Plato claimed their abuse of power and technology triggered their destruction, a narrative that echoes our own climate crises and nuclear anxieties. Scholars remain divided. Some argue Atlantis was purely symbolic, a literary device to explore themes of corruption and divine punishment. Others point to the Minoan civilization on Crete, which collapsed after a volcanic eruption around 1600 BCE, as a possible inspiration. But what if the truth is stranger? The Dogon's celestial knowledge, the Vimana's flight manuals, the Antikythera Mechanism's precision, all hint at lost advanced cultures. Could Atlantis have been one of them, a hub of cosmic wisdom swallowed by time? The search continues, driven by sonar scans and satellite imagery that peel back layers of ocean floor like pages of a drowned library. Whether literal or allegorical, Atlantis endures because it speaks to something primal in us: the fear of oblivion, and the hope that greatness, once lost, can be found again. Every sunken ruin we uncover whispers the same question: how much of our own civilization will future generations dismiss as myth? The Mayans didn't just track time, they orchestrated it, weaving celestial movements into a tapestry of cycles so precise they could predict eclipses centuries in advance. At the heart of their system was the long count calendar, a vast cosmic odometer that marked epochs of 5,125 years. When this cycle completed on December 21, 2012, the world held its breath, interpreting it as a prophecy of doom. But the Mayans themselves left no record of apocalypse, only inscriptions about renewal, about the closing of one great cycle and the dawn of another. Their calendar wasn't a clock ticking toward destruction. It was a mirror reflecting the universe's rhythmic pulse. Consider the sophistication behind their calculations. Without telescopes, the Mayans measured Venus's orbit with a margin of error of just 2 hours per 500 years. They tracked the precession of the equinoxes, a 26,000-year wobble in Earth's axis long before modern astronomy confirmed its existence. Their sacred Tzolk'in cycle, a 260-day calendar, harmonized agricultural seasons with human gestation periods, suggesting they saw time as a living, breathing entity. This wasn't mere math, it was a philosophy that bound sky to soil, aligning temple ceremonies with the dance of planets. The frenzy around 2012 reveals more about us than the Mayans. Western culture, obsessed with linear time and apocalyptic narratives, projected its own fears onto their cosmology. Scholars point to Mayan texts like the Tortuguero Monument, which describes the cycle's end not as catastrophe, but as the return of the god Bolon Yokt, a deity associated with rebirth and cosmic order. Modern astronomers note an uncanny coincidence. December 21, 2012, aligned Earth with the galactic center, a rare astrological event some believe amplifies collective consciousness. Whether by design or accident, the Mayans pinpointed a moment of celestial significance we're still unraveling. What if their greatest lesson isn't about calendars at all, but about perspective? While we slice time into seconds and minutes, the Mayans thought in epochs, viewing human existence as part of a grander celestial story. Their pyramids doubled as observatories, their rituals synchronized with solstices, their art depicting gods who carried time in their hands. In an age of digital clocks and quarterly prophets, their worldview feels almost radical, an invitation to lift our eyes from screens and remember we're part of a cosmic rhythm far older than ourselves. The next time you feel rushed by the hour, consider this. Somewhere in the jungles of Palenque, a stone calendar still marks time not in deadlines but in starlight. The Tibetan Book of the Dead isn't just a religious manuscript, it's a roadmap for the soul, a guide so precise it reads like an interdimensional travelogue. Imagine this: as the body fails, consciousness embarks on a voyage through luminous realms and terrifying voids, encountering deities that Tibetan monks describe not as mythic figures, but as manifestations of the mind's own energy. These visions, meticulously detailed in the text, bear an uncanny resemblance to modern near-death experiences, where individuals report traversing tunnels of light, meeting beings of pure love, or reliving their lives in vivid flashes. The parallels are too striking to dismiss as coincidence. Could this ancient text be documenting something universal, a hidden architecture of existence that science is only now beginning to map? What's even more astonishing is how the Book of the Dead aligns with cutting-edge theories in quantum physics. Its core premise that consciousness isn't confined to the brain but persists beyond physical death echoes the controversial biocentrism hypothesis, which posits that reality is shaped by perception. Tibetan meditators spend decades training to navigate these post-mortem states while still alive, using advanced techniques to dissolve the illusion of separateness between self and universe. When physicists like Schrödinger or Bauer spoke of consciousness as a fundamental force, were they unknowingly echoing wisdom preserved in Himalayan monasteries for centuries? Consider the bardo, the transitional state between death and rebirth described in the text. It's not a passive waiting room but a dynamic, hallucinatory landscape where thoughts instantly manifest as reality. Sound familiar? It's eerily similar to reports from psychedelic research or lucid dreaming, where the boundaries of perception dissolve. The Book of the Dead even offers instructions for navigating these realms. advising the deceased to recognize illusory visions as mental projections, a practice that mirrors modern therapeutic techniques for overcoming fear or trauma. This isn't mysticism, it's a sophisticated psychology of the afterlife, suggesting that liberation comes not from escaping reality, but from understanding its fluid nature. Perhaps the most radical idea lies in the text's ultimate revelation, that the afterlife isn't a fixed destination, but a mirror reflecting the soul's deepest conditioning. The peaceful deities and wrathful demons encountered aren't external judges, but embodiments of one's own karma, a concept that resonates with the quantum notion that observers influence the observed. In this light, the Tibetan afterlife becomes a cosmic classroom where every being is both student and teacher, and death is merely a doorway to deeper understanding. As neuroscientists probe near-death experiences and physicists debate the nature of consciousness, the Book of the Dead stands as a bridge between ancient wisdom and modern inquiry. Its pages don't just describe the hereafter, they challenge us to reconsider what here even means. If consciousness can navigate realms beyond the body, does that make the brain a receiver rather than a generator of awareness? The next time you ponder the mystery of existence, remember, somewhere in the high Himalayas, monks have been exploring that question for millennia, not with microscopes, but with minds honed like precision instruments. Their findings, preserved in ink and prayer, might just hold clues to the greatest frontier of all, the nature of reality itself. High on the slopes of Mount Parnassus, where the air hummed with the scent of laurel and burning incense, the oracle of Delphi sat atop a three-legged stool above a crack in the earth, a fissure said to breathe the very voice of the gods. Pilgrims from across the ancient world climbed those sacred steps, from farmers seeking crop advice to kings plotting wars, all desperate for a glimpse into the future. The Pythia, as she was known, would enter a trance so profound her body convulsed, her voice dropping to guttural tones as she delivered prophecies in riddles. Know thyself, the temple walls whispered, but the oracle's words were anything but clear. You will go, you will return, not in war you will perish, she once told King Croesus, a prediction so ambiguous it could have meant victory or ruin. Yet history shows her visions often unfolded with eerie accuracy. How? Geologists now point to the temple's foundation. Beneath Delphi lies a fault line where two tectonic plates collide, seeping traces of ethylene, a sweet-smelling gas known to induce euphoria and hallucinations. Inhalation studies show ethylene creates a dreamlike state, blurring the line between reality and vision, not unlike the psychedelics used by shamans worldwide. But here's the twist: the Pythia wasn't just a passive vessel. She underwent years of training, memorizing centuries of political and cultural knowledge, learning to interpret celestial omens, even fasting to heighten sensitivity. Her prophecies weren't random babbling. They were a high-stakes performance, blending divine theater with razor-sharp intuition. The real genius of Delphi lay in its system. Before consulting the oracle, visitors underwent rituals sacrificing goats, paying hefty fees, waiting for auspicious dates. This wasn't just ceremony, it was data collection. Temple priests fluent in the affairs of neighboring city-states could subtly guide the Pythia's visions. When Athenian envoys asked how to survive the Persian invasion, she reportedly told them to trust the wooden walls. Some interpreted this as fortifications, but the strategist Themistocles saw deeper. It meant their navy. His fleet's victory at Salamis cemented Delphi's reputation as infallible. Yet the oracle's power went beyond politics. She served as a living bridge between the seen and unseen, her trances echoing traditions from the Tibetan mystics to Amazonian ayahuasqueros. Modern neurotheology suggests these altered states might tap into collective consciousness or heightened pattern recognition, the brain's ability to subconsciously piece together clues into coherent predictions. The Pythia's chamber, with its intoxicating vapors and hypnotic chanting, could have been the ancient world's most sophisticated divination lab. What lingers isn't just the mystery of her accuracy, but the cultural alchemy Delphi perfected. The oracle didn't just predict the future, she shaped it, turning vague pronouncements into self-fulfilling prophecies. In a world desperate for certainty, that may have been the greatest magic of all. The Sumerian tablets of Mesopotamia tell a story that shakes the foundations of human history, not as myth but as meticulous record. Etched in cuneiform clay, they describe the Anunnaki, those who from heaven to earth came, beings of immense power who descended to our planet in search of gold. According to the texts, these celestial visitors altered primitive hominids, mixing their divine essence with earthly clay to create humanity as a labor force. The Epic of Atrahasis details this genetic alchemy with startling specificity. The goddess Ninti, whose name means Lady of Life, used Anunnaki blood to animate the first humans. To modern ears, this sounds like science fiction, but consider the parallels. The splicing of advanced DNA with indigenous species mirrors contemporary genetic engineering, while the Anunnaki's need for gold, a mineral now used in space technology for its conductivity, hints at purposes beyond mere ornamentation. Zecharia Sitchin's controversial translations take this further, suggesting the Anunnaki hailed from Nibiru, a hypothetical planet in our solar system with a 3,600-year orbit. While astronomers dismiss this, the Sumerians' precise knowledge of celestial bodies remains baffling. Their depictions of the solar system included Neptune and Uranus, planets invisible to the naked eye, and they calculated planetary orbits with accuracy rivaling Renaissance astronomers. How could a civilization that saw the heavens through simple observatories possess such detailed cosmic cartography? Yet alternative interpretations exist. Mainstream scholars argue the Anunnaki were symbolic representations of natural forces or deified ancestors. The genetic creation story they propose might encode humanity's leap in self-awareness, the moment primitive hominids became conscious beings. The gold mining narrative could metaphorize agriculture's dawn when humans first extracted value from the earth. Even the name Anunnaki splits linguistically, Anu meaning heaven, Na meaning and Kai meaning earth, a poetic bridge between realms rather than literal space travelers. The most compelling evidence lies not in choosing between these views, but in their intersection. From Göbekli Tepe's megaliths to Babylon's ziggurats, ancient sites echo the Sumerians' obsession with celestial alignment. Their tablets speak of the Me, divine formulas granting control over everything from music to kingship, what we might call advanced knowledge or technology. Whether the Anunnaki were extraterrestrials, archetypal gods, or a lost advanced culture, their legacy forces a humbling question: how much of human history is still buried, not in Earth, but in our dismissal of myths as mere stories? The next time you gaze at the night sky, remember, 5,000 years ago, someone looked up and saw not just stars, but a homeland. The philosopher's stone wasn't just a lump of mythical rock. It was the ultimate symbol of humanity's quest to unlock nature's hidden laws. Across medieval Europe, Islamic laboratories, and Chinese Taoist traditions, alchemists whispered of this elusive substance, calling it by names like the elixir of life or the red tincture. On the surface, its promises sound like pure fantasy, a material that could heal all disease, extend life indefinitely, and transform lead into gold with a single touch. But beneath the allegory lies something far more profound. The stone wasn't merely a physical object. It was a cipher, a coded representation of the alchemist's own spiritual evolution. Texts like the Rosarium Philosophorum describe the process of creating it as a series of stages: blackening, whitening, yellowing, and reddening phases that eerily parallel the journey of enlightenment in mystical traditions worldwide. Modern chemistry adds a fascinating twist to this ancient pursuit. In 1919, Ernest Rutherford became the first person to deliberately transmute one element into another, bombarding nitrogen with alpha particles to produce oxygen. Today, particle accelerators routinely turn mercury into gold, proving that atomic transformation isn't magic, it's physics. So why did alchemists cloak their work in cryptic symbols and animal allegories? The answer might lie in the dangerous times they lived in. During the Inquisition, openly experimenting with matter could get you branded a heretic. By disguising their research as mystical mumbo-jumbo, they protected not just their lives but their discoveries. The famous alchemist Nicholas Flamel, for instance, left behind manuscripts filled with bizarre imagery: dragons swallowing the sun, kings dissolving in water, that some scholars now interpret as chemical formulas written in code. But the stone's most enduring legacy isn't in a lab, it's in the human psyche. Carl Jung saw alchemy as a metaphor for individuation, the process of integrating our shadow selves to achieve wholeness. The lead wasn't just a metal, it represented the dense, unrefined parts of our nature. The gold wasn't wealth but the enlightened self. When an alchemist wrote about purifying substances through fire, they might have been describing the crucible of personal transformation, the trials that burn away illusion to reveal inner truth. Even the iconic image of the Ouroboros, the snake eating its tail, mirrors the cyclical nature of growth and self-discovery. Here's where it gets truly intriguing. Recent discoveries in quantum physics suggest that consciousness might play a role in shaping reality at the subatomic level. Experiments like the double-slit test show that particles behave differently when observed, blurring the line between mind and matter. Could the alchemists have intuited this connection centuries ago? Their insistence that the stone required both precise laboratory techniques and profound inner purification takes on new resonance if matter and spirit are fundamentally intertwined. The stone's recipe often included prima materia, the formless base of all creation, a concept that echoes the quantum vacuum, the bubbling sea of potential from which particles spontaneously arise. So was the philosopher's stone ever real? In a vault beneath some forgotten chapel, perhaps a crimson powder still waits to be discovered. But its true power might lie in what it represents: the unshakable human conviction that hidden within the dross of everyday existence, there's a spark of the eternal waiting to be revealed. Whether through medieval furnaces or modern colliders, we're still chasing that same dazzling promise that if we look deeply enough, even the most ordinary things can become extraordinary. The knights clad in white robes emblazoned with red crosses weren't just warriors, they were keepers of secrets that could rewrite history. Founded in 1118 to protect pilgrims traveling to Jerusalem, the Knights Templar quickly evolved into something far more enigmatic. Within 2 centuries, they became Europe's most powerful banking institution, developed an early form of international finance, and allegedly excavated beneath Solomon's temple, where they discovered artifacts that would fuel legends for 1,000 years. Rumors swirled that they'd unearthed the Holy Grail, the Ark of the Covenant, or even fragments of the true cross, objects said to hold not just religious significance but cosmic power. What set the Templars apart wasn't just their wealth or military prowess. It was their obsession with sacred geometry and celestial alignments. Their churches, like the famed Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland, are riddled with carvings of maize plants, a crop unknown in Europe before Columbus. and intricate star maps that some researchers believe encode astronomical knowledge predating the Renaissance. Their initiation rituals reportedly involved arcane symbols and whispered teachings about the primordial tradition, a lost wisdom connecting all ancient cultures. When Templar knights were arrested en masse on Friday the 13th, 1307, the charges against them included heresy, idol worship, and spitting on the cross. But historians note these accusations were likely fabricated by King Philip IV of France, who owed the order staggering debts. The real question isn't why they were targeted, it's what they knew that made them so dangerous. Among their most tantalizing legacies is the Shambhala inscription, an enigmatic sequence of letters carved into an English monument, OUOSVAVV. For centuries, cryptographers have tried to crack its meaning, with theories ranging from a coded reference to the Grail to a Latin prayer hidden in plain sight. Even more intriguing are the Templars' nautical charts, which depict coastlines with impossible accuracy, including Antarctica, long before its official discovery. Could their network of preceptories across Europe and the Middle East have been more than monasteries? Some speculate they were nodes in a global knowledge system, preserving ancient astronomy, navigation, and even alchemy. The order's sudden dissolution only deepened the mystery. While many knights were executed or imprisoned, their fleet of ships vanished overnight, along with rumored treasures. Legends persist that surviving Templars fled to Scotland, Portugal, or even the New World, seeding secret societies like the Freemasons. Their influence echoes in everything from Dan Brown's novels to modern conspiracy theories about hidden elites guarding forbidden knowledge. But perhaps their greatest lesson isn't about relics or riches, it's about the fragility of truth in the face of power. When the Church erased the Templars, it wasn't just destroying men, it was attempting to obliterate an idea. And ideas, as history shows, have a way of resurfacing when least expected. The Voynich manuscript sits in Yale University's Voynich library like a puzzle wrapped in an enigma. Its vellum pages, carbon dated to the early 15th century, are filled with looping, alien script that has resisted every attempt at translation, from World War II codebreakers to modern artificial intelligence. But the writing is only half the mystery. The illustrations are even stranger, delicate drawings of plants that don't resemble any known species, nude women bathing in emerald green pools connected by elaborate plumbing, and celestial charts featuring unfamiliar constellations swirling around unknown stars. Some pages fold out into sprawling, psychedelic diagrams that look like maps of invisible realms. This isn't just a book, it's a portal to a world we've lost the key to understanding. For decades, skeptics dismissed it as an elaborate Renaissance hoax, a clever forgery designed to dupe some wealthy collector. But recent forensic analysis reveals something startling. The ink and pigments match period-appropriate recipes, and the script follows consistent linguistic patterns, with word frequencies and repetitions that suggest actual language rather than gibberish. Even the plant illustrations, once thought to be pure fantasy, contain microscopic details, vein patterns, root structures so precise that botanists now speculate they might document extinct species or encrypted herbal knowledge. One theory posits the manuscript as a coded pharmacopoeia, its strange flora representing medicinal plants whose true identities were hidden to protect trade secrets. Another points to the zodiac sections, noting their alignment with obscure medieval astrological traditions that blended astronomy with alchemy. Then there's the cipher itself. Unlike most historical codes, which eventually yield to frequency analysis or contextual clues, Voynich's script defies categorization. Some words repeat with poetic rhythm, while others appear only once in the entire text, a hallmark of highly technical or ritual language. In 2014, a team claimed to have identified isolated Nahuatl words, hinting at a possible Mesoamerican origin, but the theory collapsed under scrutiny. Even more intriguing are the marginalia faint, later additions in recognizable languages like Latin and German that suggest someone, centuries ago, might have partially decoded it before their knowledge vanished. What makes the manuscript so tantalizing isn't just its resistance to decryption, but what that resistance implies. In an age where we've cracked everything from Egyptian hieroglyphs to wartime enigma messages, its endurance suggests something radical, that there are still entire systems of thought, entire ways of encoding knowledge that modern linguistics hasn't even begun to map. Whether it's a lost language, an invented one, or something in between, the Voynich manuscript forces us to confront the limits of our own understanding. Every time a new theory emerges, be it an obscure dialect, an alchemical cipher, or even an extraterrestrial communication, it's not just about solving the puzzle. It's about rediscovering the boundless creativity of the human mind and the possibility that some truths are waiting for the right key to turn. Until then, those cryptic pages keep whispering, daring us to listen. Deep within the sacred texts of Tibet and Nepal, a legend pulses like a hidden heartbeat, the myth of Shambhala, a kingdom of wisdom so profound, its very existence bends the boundaries between earth and enlightenment. Described in the Kalachakra Tantra as a land cradled by snow-capped mountains, its streets glow with golden light, its rulers possess supernatural knowledge, and its people live free from suffering, aging, or strife. Some say it's a physical place, hidden in the remote valleys of the Himalayas, accessible only through secret tunnels or during rare celestial alignments. Others insist it exists on a higher vibrational plane, visible only to those who have purified their minds through decades of meditation. But here's what's fascinating: this isn't just folklore. The Dalai Lama himself has called Shambhala a living tradition, while Hindu scriptures reference it as the land of the immortals, where sages guard the secrets of cosmic harmony. History's most unlikely figures became obsessed with finding it. In the 1930s, Nazi expeditions scoured Tibet, convinced Shambhala held the keys to an Aryan super-civilization, a grotesque distortion of its true meaning. Earlier, Russian mystic Nicholas Roerich painted haunting visions of the kingdom after his Central Asian expeditions, claiming locals whispered of a hidden valley where the air itself carried the scent of lotus and the sound of distant bells. Even today, satellite imagery fuels speculation about uncharted citadels buried beneath the ice of Mongolia's Altai Mountains. But perhaps the most compelling clue lies in the Burn tradition, Tibet's indigenous religion, which describes a primordial paradise called Olmalungring, a mirror of Shambhala where beings of light encoded spiritual truths into the landscape itself. The deeper you dive into the lore, the more Shambhala reveals itself as a metaphor for humanity's latent potential. The Kalachakra, the Wheel of Time, teachings linked to Shambhala, predicts a future golden age when the kingdom's wisdom will emerge to guide the world through darkness. This isn't passive prophecy, it's a call to action. Tibetan masters teach that Shambhala's location isn't marked on any map because it exists within the collective consciousness, a blueprint for what society could become if compassion and wisdom took root. Modern parallels are uncanny. The concept of a critical mass in social change theory, where a small percentage of awakened individuals can shift global consciousness, echoes Shambhala's promise that enlightenment isn't solitary but collective. So why does this matter now? In an era of climate crises and geopolitical fractures, Shambhala's legend offers more than escapism. It's a radical template for resilience. Its descriptions of sustainable cities powered by inner technology, mindfulness practices that eliminate greed and conflict sound less like fantasy and more like urgent innovation. Scientists studying neuroplasticity confirm that prolonged meditation physically rewires the brain for empathy and focus, while anthropologists note that isolated Himalayan villages like Lo Manthang function as micro-Shambhalas, their centuries-old cooperative systems preserving ecology and culture against all odds. The real mystery isn't whether Shambhala lies hidden in some mountain pass. It's whether we're willing to recognize that the kingdom's gates don't open with a key, but with a shift in perception. Every act of compassion, every moment of clarity, every choice that honors interconnection, these are the footsteps that trace the path to Shambhala. The kingdom may be elusive, but its invitation isn't. The map to utopia isn't drawn in ink, but in the courage to live as if it's already here. Beneath the great Sphinx's weathered pores, where desert winds have carved its limestone body for millennia, whispers persist of a hidden library, a vault of knowledge so profound it could upend our understanding of human history. Ancient Arab historians like al-Makrizi wrote of secret passageways leading to chambers filled with tablets inscribed with lost wisdom, while 19th century mystics like Helena Blavatsky claimed the Sphinx guarded Atlantean artifacts buried before the Great Flood. But this isn't just myth. Modern technology has added fuel to the mystery. Ground-penetrating radar scans in the 1990s revealed anomalous voids beneath the Sphinx's front paws, and along its flanks, spaces too geometrically precise to be natural formations. One chamber, detected nearly 25 feet below the surface, appears rectangular, with dimensions suggesting a man-made room. Yet despite these tantalizing clues, Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities has repeatedly denied permits for excavation, citing preservation concerns. The question lingers, what are they protecting? Consider the Sphinx's own riddles. Geologists Robert Schoch and John Anthony West stunned the academic world by presenting evidence that the statue's erosion patterns suggest it's far older than the conventional dating of 4,500 years. Vertical weathering marks, they argue, point to prolonged exposure to heavy rainfall, conditions Egypt hasn't experienced since the end of the last ice age around 10,000 BC. If correct, this would mean the Sphinx predates dynastic Egypt by millennia, potentially aligning it with Plato's timeline for Atlantis. Even more intriguing are the accounts of early 20th century explorers like the psychic Edgar Cayce, who described a hidden entrance near the Sphinx's right shoulder leading to a hall of records, a repository of crystal tablets containing the history of a lost civilization. Cayce's predictions, once dismissed as fantasy, gained unexpected credibility when seismic surveys later identified subsurface anomalies in that exact location. The implications are staggering. If the Sphinx does guard a cache of Atlantean knowledge, its contents could revolutionize archaeology, theology, even physics. Imagine texts detailing advanced energy systems, celestial navigation techniques, or a unified science-spirituality framework lost to time. The ancient Egyptian priesthood claimed their wisdom descended from the Tepe, the first time when gods walked the earth. Could these gods have been survivors of a cataclysmic collapse, preserving their knowledge beneath the pores of their greatest monument? The parallels are hard to ignore. The Sphinx gazes precisely eastward toward the rising sun on the equinoxes, aligning with the constellation Leo as it appeared in 10,500 BCE, a celestial timestamp that might encode its true age. Its lion's body symbolizes strength and guardianship across cultures, suggesting it was designed not just as a statue, but as a sentinel for something far more valuable than gold. Yet the greatest secret may lie not in what's hidden, but why it remains concealed. Throughout history, knowledge has always been power, and those who control access to it shape civilizations. The Egyptian government's reluctance to allow deeper investigation might stem from legitimate conservation priorities, or from the recognition that some truths could destabilize religious, political, and academic institutions built on certain historical narratives. When researcher Dr. Zahi Hawass briefly opened a shaft near the Sphinx's tail in 2010, only to seal it days later without explanation, speculation erupted. Was the chamber empty, too dangerous to enter, or did it contain something so disruptive it had to remain buried? Perhaps the Sphinx's ultimate lesson is about patience. For 50 centuries, it's watched empires rise and fall, keeping its secrets through conquests and excavations. Its enigmatic smile seems to say that some mysteries unfold only when humanity is ready to receive them. As satellite imaging and quantum sensing technologies advance, we may soon peer beneath the sands without lifting a shovel. Until then, the Guardian of Giza remains silent, but not perhaps forever. The serpent slithers through creation myths like a living thread, binding ancient cultures across oceans and epochs. In the Amazon, the Shipibo people speak of Ronan Keen, the cosmic serpent whose luminous scales contain the patterns of all life. Australian Aboriginal elders describe the rainbow serpent carving rivers into the land while singing the world into being. Halfway across the globe, the Maya worshipped Kukulkan, the feathered serpent who brought knowledge of astronomy and agriculture. These aren't just random animal symbols. The parallels become electrifying when you consider modern biology's ultimate blueprint: DNA's twisting double helix, two strands coiled around each other in perfect symmetry, mirroring the age-old image of intertwined serpents. What's startling isn't just the visual resemblance, but the roles these serpents play in indigenous cosmologies. The Dogon of Mali depict their creator serpent Lib coiled around the axis of the universe, its body encoding celestial knowledge. In Hindu tradition, the Kundalini serpent lies dormant at the base of the spine until awakened through meditation, rising through energy centers to unlock higher consciousness, a metaphor that eerily parallels our understanding of dormant genetic potential. Even the caduceus, the ancient Greek medical symbol of two snakes winding around a staff, now seems prophetic when you realize DNA's discovery revolutionized modern medicine. Coincidence strains credibility when the pattern repeats across isolated cultures with no possible contact. Modern science offers tantalizing clues about how this knowledge might have been transmitted. Psychologist Jeremy Narby spent years living with the Ashaninka people in Peru, where shamans described drinking ayahuasca and seeing animated spirals inside all living things, visions they interpreted as the essence of life itself. Narby's controversial hypothesis suggests these plant-induced states might allow access to biomolecular information, a kind of intuitive microscopy. While mainstream science dismisses such claims, it's undeniable that indigenous traditions preserved sophisticated ecological knowledge, like the Amazonian use of venomous snake proteins in medicine centuries before Western pharmacology isolated the same compound. The symbolic connection grows deeper when you examine ancient artifacts. A 2,000-year-old Mayan vase shows the god Itzamna, the bringer of writing and healing, holding a double-headed serpent bar that mirrors DNA's ladder-like structure. In Egypt, the Urias serpent crowned pharaohs as a symbol of divine wisdom, its undulating form echoing the sine wave pattern of genetic sequences. Perhaps most astonishing is the Nag Hammadi library's Gnostic texts, which describe the serpent in Eden not as a deceiver, but as the enlightener who gave Adam and Eve knowledge of the eternal realms. This isn't just about shapes in a Petri dish matching mythological motifs. The cosmic serpent represents something far more profound, the ancient recognition that life's essence is coded, that invisible patterns underpin visible reality. While modern science unravels DNA's chemical alphabet, indigenous wisdom framed this truth in symbolic language, preserving it through stories told under starlit skies. The next time you see a strand of DNA or an ancient serpent carving, consider this. Maybe our ancestors didn't need electron microscopes to grasp life's blueprint. Maybe they had other ways of seeing and remembering what we're only now beginning to prove. The Babylonian map of the world isn't just a flawed geography lesson. It's a window into how an entire civilization saw their place in the cosmos. Etched onto a clay tablet over 2,600 years ago, this ancient diagram shows Earth as a flat disk floating in a cosmic ocean, with Babylon sitting proudly at its heart. Rivers spiral outward like spokes of a wheel, and distant lands labeled beyond the flight of birds hint at realms unknown. At first glance, it's easy to dismiss this as primitive cartography. But look closer and you'll realize this map wasn't meant to guide travelers. It was a spiritual blueprint, a declaration that the ordered world ended where the gods' domain began. What's fascinating isn't the map's inaccuracy, but the logic behind its design. Without satellites or compasses, the Babylonians relied on two powerful tools, the night sky and the sacred text. Astronomers meticulously tracked planetary movements, while priests interpreted them as divine messages. The circular shape mirrors their view of the zodiac, a celestial wheel dividing the heavens into 12 equal parts. Even the bitter river encircling the disk echoes their creation epic, the Enuma Elish, where the god Marduk slays the primordial sea goddess Tiamat and uses her body to fashion the cosmos. To them, geography and mythology weren't separate subjects, they were layers of the same truth. Compare this to other ancient worldviews and a pattern emerges. The Egyptians saw the universe as a flat platter with Egypt at the center, bordered by the Great Circuit, a serpentine ocean mirroring the Nile's annual floods. Norse cosmology imagined Earth as a giant tree, Yggdrasil, with 9 realms nestled in its branches and roots. These weren't naive mistakes, they were sophisticated models blending observable phenomena with cultural identity. When the Babylonian map places ruined cities and places where the sun is not seen at its edges, it's not describing wastelands, it's mapping the boundary between the known and the unknowable. Modern technology lets us pinpoint locations to within millimeters, but something vital gets lost in that precision. Ancient maps didn't just chart land, they encoded values, fears, and aspirations. The Babylonian map's central placement of Babylon wasn't arrogance. It reflected their belief that temples like the Esagila were literal meeting points between heaven and earth. The ocean surrounding the disk wasn't a navigational hazard. It was the realm of chaos that order constantly had to withstand. In an age where Google Earth makes every spot on the globe feel equally accessible, these old maps remind us that place has always been more than coordinates. Its meaning, perhaps the most humbling lesson, lies in how these ancient models resonate with modern physics. Today, scientists speak of the observable universe, the portion of reality we can see, bounded by light's finite speed. Beyond that, an unknowable expanse, not unlike the Babylonian bitter river. The difference is that where we see cold equations, they saw divine intention. Both perspectives, separated by millennia, grapple with the same fundamental question: where does the world end and what lies beyond? The answer, it seems, depends on whether you're holding a telescope or a clay tablet. The legend of the phoenix rises from the ashes of time itself, its fiery wings spanning continents and centuries. In ancient Egypt, the Bennu bird perched atop sacred obelisks, a heron-like creature said to burst into flames only to emerge renewed from its own pyre. Halfway across the world, Chinese scrolls depicted the Fenghuang with feathers of 5 celestial colors, its appearance heralding dynastic transitions and cosmic harmony. Even the Americas had their fiery counterpart, the thunderbird of indigenous traditions, whose mighty wings could summon storms and regeneration. This isn't mere coincidence. When the same symbol appears across unconnected cultures, it suggests something deeper than shared imagination. It hints at a fundamental truth about existence that our ancestors grasped intuitively. Consider the astronomical parallels. Modern telescopes reveal how stars don't simply die, they explode in supernova, scattering stardust that forms new planets and solar systems. Our own sun will one day swell into a red giant, engulfing nearby worlds before collapsing into a white dwarf, its matter eventually recycled into future stars. This celestial cycle mirrors the Phoenix myth with uncanny precision. The ancient Zoroastrians might have glimpsed this truth when they described the Simurgh, a radiant bird that lived for centuries before immolating itself, only to rise again, a metaphor for cosmic cycles of destruction and rebirth embedded in their fire temples. The Phoenix's enduring appeal lies in its dual nature. It represents both the terror of annihilation and the promise of renewal, a duality every human culture has wrestled with. Greek historian Herodotus recorded Egyptian priests describing the Phoenix's 500-year lifespan, after which it would build a nest of aromatic branches that ignited in the sun's rays. The Romans later adapted this into their own version, where the Phoenix's ashes birthed a worm that grew into the next incarnation, an early intuition of life's relentless continuity. These stories persist because they speak to something primal within us, the understanding that endings aren't final, and that from loss can come transformation. Today, we see this myth playing out in unexpected ways. Quantum physics reveals how energy cannot be destroyed, only transformed, an echo of the Phoenix's eternal return. Ecologists study forest fires that seem catastrophic, only to discover how certain seeds require intense heat to germinate, ensuring the ecosystem's rebirth. Even our own cells undergo constant renewal, with the human body replacing itself almost entirely every 7 years. The Phoenix isn't just a pretty legend, it's a biological and cosmological reality written into the fabric of existence. Perhaps the most poignant lesson comes from how different cultures interpreted the Phoenix's fire. In China, the Fenghuang's flames represented virtuous leadership rising from chaos. For early Christians, the Phoenix became a symbol of resurrection and hope. The Persian Huma bird was said to bestow kingship upon those it shadowed, linking destruction with destiny. These variations reveal a shared human truth that we've always understood fire as both destroyer and creator, a force that clears the way for new growth. The next time you witness a sunset's dying embers or the first sparks of dawn, remember, you're watching the same eternal cycle that inspired our ancestors to dream of a bird that never truly dies. Rising from the dusty plains of southeastern Turkey, Göbekli Tepe shatters everything we thought we knew about the birth of civilization. Its massive T-shaped pillars, some weighing over 16 tons and towering 16 feet high, stand arranged in precise circles, each stone etched with intricate carvings of scorpions, lions, and vultures frozen in mid-hunt. What defies belief isn't just the scale of construction, but the timeline. Carbon dating places this site at 11,600 years old, making it 6,000 years older than Stonehenge and a staggering 7 millennia before the Great Pyramid. Here's the paradox: these megaliths weren't built by farmers or city dwellers, but by nomadic hunter-gatherers who supposedly lacked the organization for such feats. How did people without permanent settlements, without even pottery or writing, engineer a complex that aligns with celestial events like the summer solstice. The mystery deepens when you examine the carvings. Among the animal figures, one pillar bears a peculiar relief, a humanoid with elongated arms and a belt, its hands positioned near its waist as if holding something. Archaeologists call it the Göbekli Tepe shaman, but its stylized posture mirrors much later depictions of Mesopotamian gods handing knowledge to humanity. Even more perplexing are the geometric symbols found throughout the site. One recurring motif, an H shape inside a circle, bears an uncanny resemblance to Sumerian cuneiform signs for sky or divine, though these wouldn't appear for another 5,000 years. Were these symbols an early proto-language, or could they represent something more profound, a shared system of meaning passed down through generations? Then there's the deliberate burial. Around 8000 BC, someone meticulously filled in the entire complex with layers of soil and debris, preserving it like a time capsule. This wasn't erosion or neglect, it was a purposeful act, as if sealing away sacred knowledge. Some researchers speculate the burial coincided with a climatic catastrophe. The Younger Dryas period's abrupt cooling suggesting the site might have been abandoned as survival took priority. Others propose a ritual explanation that the structures were always meant to be ephemeral, their burials symbolizing the cyclical nature of existence. The truth might lie in the stratigraphy itself. Excavations reveal multiple construction phases, with older circles deliberately interred before new ones were built atop them, hinting at a tradition where renewal was woven into the architecture. What truly unsettles scholars is Göbekli Tepe's implications for human history. Conventional wisdom holds that agriculture led to complex societies, but here's a monumental site predating farming by centuries. This flips the script, suggesting that spiritual or communal impulses might have driven sedentism, not just resource surplus. The site's location offers clues. Situated at the northern edge of the Fertile Crescent, it overlooks plains where wild wheat ancestors grew abundantly. Did gatherings to build and worship at Göbekli Tepe gradually anchor nomadic groups to this landscape, inadvertently sowing the seeds of domestication? The pillars themselves, adorned with predator and prey, might encode a hunter's intimate knowledge of animal migrations, a Stone Age almanac blending ritual and survival. As laser scans reveal hidden chambers and undiscovered pillars still buried nearby, Göbekli Tepe whispers a provocative idea: that civilization's dawn was lit not by practicality alone, but by wonder. Those who raised these stones under Pleistocene stars weren't primitive. They were astronomers, artists, and architects whose legacy challenges us to rewrite history. Every new excavation at the site peels back another layer of mystery, reminding us that the past is far stranger and far more sophisticated than we ever imagined. The image of the cosmic egg cracks open across creation myths from every corner of the ancient world, revealing a startling pattern hidden in plain sight. In the Rigveda, the oldest Hindu scripture written over 3,000 years ago, the Hiranyagarbha, the golden womb floats in the void before dividing into heaven and earth. Egyptian priests at Heliopolis told of the Bennu bird rising from an egg atop the primordial mound, its first cry setting time into motion. Even the remote Polynesian islands share this vision. The Maori speak of Tepe, the infinite night where the egg of Rangi and Papa incubated until bursting into light and form. These stories aren't just poetic flourishes, they're eerily precise metaphors for what modern science calls the Big Bang, that singular moment when all energy, matter, and space erupted from an infinitely dense point. What makes this parallel so electrifying isn't just the shared imagery of an egg. but the profound concepts encoded within it. The egg's smooth, unbroken shell represents the state of perfect unity before creation, what physicists term the singularity. The cracking of the shell mirrors the inflationary epoch, when the universe expanded faster than light itself in the first fractions of a second. Even the yolk and white find their counterparts in modern cosmology, the separation of forces like gravity and electromagnetism as the newborn universe cooled. The Taittiriya Upanishad describes this process with uncanny accuracy, stating the golden egg vibrated before dividing into silver and gold halves reminiscent of the cosmic microwave background's temperature variations that seeded galaxies. Dive deeper, and the egg symbolism reveals even more layers. In Chinese mythology, Pangu emerges from the cosmic egg with a chisel to separate yin from yang, echoing quantum fluctuations that created matter-antimatter asymmetry. The Finnish Kalevala describes the egg's fragments becoming the sun, moon, and stars, a poetic version of nucleosynthesis, where light elements formed in the universe's first minutes. This isn't mere coincidence. It suggests ancient cultures possessed an intuitive grasp of cosmic principles, framing them in narratives that could be passed down through generations. Without telescopes or particle accelerators, they observed nature's cycle, seeds bursting from hard shells, embryos developing in protective membranes, and extrapolated these patterns to the grandest scale imaginable. The real question isn't whether these myths predicted modern science, but why the egg archetype resonates so universally. Carl Jung might argue it's embedded in humanity's collective unconscious, a primordial symbol expressing our deepest intuitions about origins. Indigenous traditions offer another perspective, that these stories preserve actual ancestral memories of the universe's birth, transmitted through altered states or sacred rituals. Modern physics adds its own twist. The holographic principle suggests all information in our three-dimensional reality might be encoded on a two-dimensional surface, much like an eggshell containing the potential for life within its curved walls. Perhaps the cosmic egg's greatest lesson is about the nature of discovery itself. For all our advanced technology, we're still grappling with the same fundamental mystery that haunted the ancients: what existed before existence. The Large Hadron Collider's search for the primordial soup mirrors the Vedic sages' meditations on the Golden Womb. When we stare at Hubble's deep field images of galaxy clusters, we're seeing the same cosmic dawn that inspired Egyptians to depict the Bennu bird rising from celestial waters. The egg endures because it's more than a symbol, it's a bridge between ways of knowing, reminding us that science and myth are both attempts to crack the ultimate riddle of where we came from. The Rosetta Stone wasn't just a key to deciphering hieroglyphs, it was a time capsule of human curiosity, a slab of black basalt that bridged three worlds. Discovered in 1799 by French soldiers digging fortifications in Egypt, its surface bore the same decree in three scripts: ancient Greek, Demotic, and the enigmatic hieroglyphs that had baffled scholars for centuries. Greek, well understood, became the cipher that cracked the code, thanks to the relentless efforts of Jean-François Champollion. But here's what's often overlooked. The stone's true power wasn't just in translating words, but in revealing how knowledge is preserved across layers of time and culture. The decree itself, issued by priests honoring Ptolemy V in 196 BCE, was bureaucratic, a tax break for temples. Yet its survival made it sacred, a testament to how mundane records can become vessels of the extraordinary. Consider the stone's trilingual nature, a deliberate choice by the Ptolemaic rulers to communicate with Egyptian priests, Greek administrators, and the everyday people who spoke Demotic. This wasn't just practical governance, it was an early experiment in universal language, a recognition that wisdom must be multi-platform to endure. Fast forward to today, and we see echoes of this idea in everything from emoji to QR code systems designed to transcend linguistic barriers. The Rosetta Stone's genius lies in its redundancy, the same message repeated in 3 forms, ensuring at least one would survive the erosion of time. It's a lesson modern archivists now apply to digital preservation, storing data in multiple formats to outlast technological obsolescence. But the stone also whispers of languages still undeciphered, scripts that guard secrets we've yet to reclaim. Linear A, the script of the Minoans, taunts researchers with its elegant symbols and no known parallel. The Indus Valley script, etched onto 4,000-year-old seals, remains a linguistic lock without a key. Even Rongorongo, the glyphs of Easter Island, defy translation despite their striking visual rhythm. These aren't just academic puzzles, they're potential libraries of lost knowledge, agricultural techniques, astronomical observations, even early philosophies trapped behind unbroken codes. The irony is profound. Civilizations that meticulously recorded their wisdom often lacked the one thing that could ensure its survival: a Rosetta Stone of their own. What makes these undeciphered scripts so tantalizing is the possibility they hold radical departures from how we think. The Voynich manuscript's botanical illustrations suggest a classification system unlike any known today. Linear B, cracked in the 1950s, revealed that Mycenaean Greek was far older than previously believed, proof that breakthroughs can rewrite history overnight. Imagine if we unlocked the Proto-Elamite script of ancient Iran or the Olmec glyphs of Mesoamerica. Could they contain early blueprints for sustainable architecture or medical remedies since forgotten? The Rosetta Stone reminds us that every translated word is a reclaimed idea, and every undeciphered symbol is a door still closed. Perhaps the stone's deepest message is about the fragility of understanding. For over 1,000 years, hieroglyphs were a living script, then vanished into obscurity for centuries until Champollion's breakthrough. Our own digital age, with its ever-shifting platforms and file formats, faces a similar risk, what linguists call the digital dark age, where future generations might stare at our hard drives as we once stared at the Rosetta Stone, seeing data but lacking the cipher to read it. The stone's endurance offers a counterpoint. Knowledge survives when it's carved in stone, etched in metal, or written in multiple tongues. It's no accident that NASA, a Voyager golden record, carrying humanity's greetings to the stars, uses symbols and sounds designed to be universal. So the next time you see the Rosetta Stone's familiar profile in a museum or textbook, look beyond the hieroglyphs. See it for what it truly is: a manifesto for intellectual resilience, a proof that no language is ever truly lost if we're willing to listen across the centuries. The stone didn't just unlock Egypt's past, it handed us a toolkit for preserving our future. The idea that our planet might be hollow, with vast caverns and hidden civilizations thriving beneath our feet, is as old as human storytelling itself. In Norse mythology, the underworld of Svartalfheim housed the dwarves, master craftsmen who forged weapons of unimaginable power in their subterranean forges. Tibetan Buddhist texts speak of Agartha, a mystical kingdom hidden beneath the Himalayas, where enlightened beings guard ancient wisdom. Even the ancient Greeks told of Hades, a sprawling underground realm where the dead walked among rivers of fire and memory. These myths share a common thread: the belief that Earth isn't just a solid ball of rock, but a layered reality with secrets waiting to be uncovered. Fast forward to the 18th century, and the hollow Earth theory took a surprising turn into the realm of pseudoscience. Astronomer Edmund Halley, of comet fame, proposed that Earth might consist of concentric shells rotating independently, with luminous atmospheres between them, an idea he suggested to explain anomalous compass readings. Later, John Cleves Sims Jr. became so convinced of polar openings to an inner world that he petitioned the U.S. government to fund an expedition. While these theories were eventually debunked by seismic studies revealing Earth's solid mantle and core, the allure persisted. Why? Because the hollow Earth wasn't just a geological hypothesis, it was a symbol. It represented the human longing for unexplored frontiers, especially as our surface world became increasingly mapped and measured. The 20th century added a darker twist to the legend. Nazi occultists, influenced by hollow Earth lore and Tibetan legends of Shambhala, launched expeditions to Antarctica in search of entrances to a subterranean Aryan utopia. Declassified operation high-jump documents and conspiracy theories about secret Nazi bases under the ice only fueled modern speculation. Meanwhile, fringe groups like the Caution Unity in Florida built entire communities around the belief that we live inside a concave Earth with the stars projected onto an inner dome. These movements reveal less about geology and more about psychology. How easily myth can masquerade as truth when it promises hidden order in a chaotic world. Today, the hollow Earth theory lives on in pop culture, from Jules Verne's Journey to the Center of the Earth to Netflix's Stranger Things and its eerie Upside Down. It thrives because it taps into something primal, our fear of the unknown and our hope that wonder still exists just out of sight. Scientifically, we know Earth's interior is molten rock and metal, yet the stories endure. Maybe it's because in an age of satellites and deep-sea submersibles, the idea of a final uncharted territory, a place where dragons or ancient civilizations might still dwell, offers a thrill that cold facts can't extinguish. The hollow Earth isn't a place on any map. It's a metaphor for all the mysteries we've yet to solve, the corners of existence where science and imagination still dance in the dark. The ancient practice of chanting mantras repeating sacred syllables like Om or Aum might seem like a simple ritual, but beneath its surface lies a profound understanding of sound's power to shape reality. In Hindu and Buddhist traditions, these vibrational formulas aren't just prayers, they're tools for transformation, designed to align the chanter's energy with the universe's fundamental rhythms. Take the Gayatri Mantra, a verse from the Rig Veda dating back over 3,000 years. When recited, its precise Sanskrit syllables create specific frequencies believed to purify the mind and awaken higher states of awareness. Modern science is now catching up to what mystics have known for millennia. Quantum physics reveals that at the subatomic level, everything, from electrons to galaxies, vibrates. Matter isn't solid, it's energy in motion, a symphony of oscillations. The ancients seemed to grasp this intuitively, using sound not just as communication, but as a creative force. Consider the effect of chanting on the human brain. Neuroscientists studying Tibetan monks have documented how repetitive mantras synchronize brain waves, shifting consciousness from the beta state of everyday alertness to the theta and gamma waves associated with deep meditation and heightened insight. It's as if these sacred sounds act as tuning forks for the mind, resonating with frequencies that dissolve mental clutter and amplify focus. Even secular studies show that rhythmic chanting reduces cortisol levels, the hormone linked to stress, while boosting serotonin and dopamine chemicals tied to well-being and clarity. This isn't just relaxation, it's a measurable rewiring of neural pathways, suggesting mantras might be among humanity's earliest forms of biohacking. The parallels between ancient sound rituals and modern acoustics grow even more striking when you examine sacred architecture. Hindu temples, for instance, are often designed with precise mathematical ratios to amplify chanting, their domed ceilings and pillared halls acting like natural resonating chambers. The Gol Gumbaz in India whispers across its vast interior. A whisper uttered at one end can be heard clearly 150 feet away. Similarly, Gregorian chants in European cathedrals exploit reverberation to create a sense of divine presence, their harmonies bouncing off stone walls to envelop worshippers in layers of sound. These structures weren't just built for aesthetics, they were vibrational instruments engineered to enhance the transformative power of human voice. Perhaps the most tantalizing clue lies in cymatics, the study of visible sound. When sand or water is placed on a metal plate and exposed to specific frequencies, intricate geometric patterns emerge. Higher tones create complex mandala-like designs, while lower tones generate simpler concentric circles. Remarkably, these patterns mirror the sacred art of countless traditions, from the yantras of Hinduism to the flower-like motifs in Islamic architecture. It's as if the ancients were encoding the language of vibration into their visual symbolism, a silent testament to sound's formative power. Even the Hebrew creation story hints at this. And God said, "Let there be light." Not a thought, not an action, a spoken command, as if the universe itself was sung into being. So what does this mean for us today? In a world drowning in noise, traffic, notifications, the relentless hum of screens, the deliberate use of sound offers a radical counterpoint. Mantras remind us that vibration isn't just physics. It's a bridge between inner and outer worlds, a way to sculpt both mind and matter. Whether through the resonant of a yoga class or the harmonic chants of a monastic choir, we're participating in an experiment older than history itself, the discovery that to change your vibration is to change your reality. The next time you feel the rumble of a bass note in your chest or the tingling resonance of a singing bowl, remember, you're not just hearing sound, you're witnessing the pulse of creation, the same pulse that stirred the first mantras into life. From the Dogon's celestial knowledge to the Mayans' intricate cosmic calendars, these ancient narratives aren't just relics of the past, they're invitations to rethink our place in the universe. What if these stories weren't mere myths, but fragments of a lost science, a way of understanding reality that blended observation with intuition? The precision with which these cultures mapped the stars, encoded sacred geometry into their temples, and predicted celestial events suggests something extraordinary, a dialogue with the cosmos that modern civilization is only beginning to rediscover. Take the Dogon's understanding of Sirius B, a star invisible to the naked eye, or the Mayan long count calendar, which tracked time with a sophistication rivaling modern astronomy. These weren't lucky guesses, they were the results of generations of careful observation, passed down through oral traditions and etched into stone. The ancients didn't separate the spiritual from the scientific. They saw the universe as a living, interconnected system, where every planetary alignment and every solstice carried meaning beyond mere mechanics. This holistic worldview, one that modern physics is now echoing with concepts like quantum entanglement and the holographic principle, might hold the key to bridging the gap between our technological advancements and the wisdom we've left behind. Consider how these legends challenge the linear narrative of progress. We often assume that knowledge accumulates in a straight line, with each generation building on the last. Yet the Antikythera Mechanism, Göbekli Tepe, and the Vimana texts suggest that brilliance isn't bound to any era. Civilizations rise and fall, taking with them entire libraries of understanding, only for fragments to resurface centuries later. The question isn't just what the ancients knew, it's how much has been lost in the cracks of time, waiting for us to piece it back together. This isn't about romanticizing the past or dismissing modern science. It's about recognizing that truth isn't confined to one way of knowing. The Tibetan Book of the Dead's descriptions of consciousness beyond the body find eerie parallels in near-death research. The emerald tablet's maxim, as above, so below, resonates with fractal geometry and the self-similar patterns found throughout nature. These echoes across time and culture hint at a deeper reality, one that transcends the boundaries between ancient wisdom and cutting-edge discovery. So where does this leave us? At the edge of a vast mystery with more questions than answers, but perhaps that's the point. The past doesn't whisper to give us easy solutions. It whispers to remind us that curiosity is our greatest tool. Whether you're gazing at the Nazca Lines from a satellite image or pondering the cosmic serpent's resemblance to DNA, remember, these aren't just puzzles to solve. They're mirrors reflecting our own thirst for understanding, our own place in a story much larger than ourselves. The next time you look up at the night sky, think of the countless generations who did the same, not with telescopes, but with a sense of wonder that connected them to something infinite. Their legacy isn't just in the stones they carved or the stories they left behind. It's in the invitation to keep searching, to keep listening, because the universe has always been speaking. The real question is, what will we hear when we finally lean in? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and if you're hungry for more mysteries, hit that subscribe button. The journey is far.